Hey guys, what's up? Decline here. It's been a while. I had a cold and I'm still trying to get better. Today I want to talk about SEAmaxxing. What is that? It's going to Southeast Asia with the aim of doing better with girls compared to the West. Generally, they're referring to non-paid girls, although a lot of people do go to the red light districts there and have some paid encounters. So you could try and bring a girl home back to the West, or you could stay there and try and live there as an expat, or just go for a holiday and enjoy it while you're there. So this topic came to my mind recently because I had been planning a trip overseas. Previously I was planning one to Eastern Europe for some girl, but as I mentioned before, that fell through. But also my plans to meet someone in the US fell through, and those plans are basically postponed indefinitely. And not on my end. I mean, I'm ready to travel, borders are open here. So that was a bit of a disappointment because that US trip had been building up for well over a year. So to take my mind off it, maybe cheer me up, I've started thinking about going to Thailand if it doesn't happen. Just take my mind off everything, build some new experiences, and enjoy myself. When the restrictions are reduced there, of course, because right now you run the risk of ending up with lots of hospital fees, quarantine fees if you have the C word. So I'd spend a few weeks there, Bangkok and Pattaya. I'd mostly check out the paid stuff, the red light districts, but I'd also try and get a regular girl through Tinder or some other dating site. I've tried setting my location there on Tinder before, and I have gotten some matches, although not amazing results, so that could be worth a try. And also I could try real life stuff like clubbing and try and be more confident about that stuff if I could gain the confidence for that. But of course I'd still have those paid experiences so that I still enjoy that trip even if I can't find anything non-paid. And maybe later on I'd go to other countries, like countries with shorter populations, like Philippines, where the average guy is like 164 centimeters, so I'd be around average or slightly below average since I'm 162, and it'd be a lot easier there. And probably a few other countries as well. My goal would be just short term, enjoy myself there, see if I can do any better with girls than back at home, and then just come back home instead of trying to live there or bring a girl back to Australia. So why would you go to Southeast Asia? In theory, there's a better dating marketplace, and apparently a lot of guys from the West have had success there when they didn't have any success in their home country. There are poorer girls if you want to beta bucks, although beta bucksing isn't really my thing. They might be looking for a better life if they want to come to your country. There's less competition in terms of guys. They're shorter, darker skin, probably worse looks due to being poor, so they'll have poor diet, worse bone development, etc. So it should be easier than trying to compete against 6-foot white chads who have really good bone development back in Australia. And a lot of the Western competition there is middle-aged bald guys who are really too old to get anything without paying there. So yeah, there's still some young Western guys, but the field should be a bit easier than it is back home. And in terms of paid stuff, good services there apparently and lots of choice. from what I've heard, it's a lot better than back home. Several of my uncles on my dad's side actually got wives from the Philippines, and they had kids and stuff. At least one of them had no experience with girls before that, and he was in his 30s when he went, and he eventually got married. My dad was the only one to get a wife from the Pacific. My mum's Fiji Indian, that is, Indian ancestry, but born in Fiji. But in a way, I guess I'm still a part of location maxing, geo-maxing, being a child of a white Western male and a non-white female from a poorer foreign country. One difference is my dad and his brothers are white, so they had just be white on their side. And my dad has a decent frame and bone size, skull size and all that. I don't know about my uncles, but they might be similar. But the thing is, that was a really long time ago, like in the 70s, I think, like the late 70s. And the world has definitely changed since then. It's not like it used to be. Those countries were a lot poorer years ago, relative to Western countries like Australia. For example, Thailand is like a middle income country now. So in terms of beta bucks appeal, girls aren't going to be as impressed by you as a Westerner, and they're not going to be as desperate to leave their home country for a better life. And in terms of paid experiences, they're obviously a lot more expensive than they were before. And of course, the massive amounts of tourists probably pushed the prices up. So both paid and non-paid aren't going to work as well as before. Also, women have more independence now. They're not going to be like captive when you bring them to the West. There's a lot of risk that if you bring a girl to the West, she can just dump you. Like if you sponsor them for their visa, they'll do that, they'll come and they'll get their visa, and then that's it, they'll just leave you. And if you get married, you can end up losing your assets in a breakup, and the average asset split is more than half to the woman. So it's not even just 50-50, it's more than half to the woman. And child support will destroy you if you have kids. If your sole goal is to reproduce, then maybe you can achieve that aim by SEAmaxxing. Like even if everything falls apart afterwards, at least you got to have the kid. But in terms of getting a happy life and a happy long-term relationship and not getting screwed over, like that's not guaranteed, and I think it's pretty risky. And they might just not be very good partners if you bring them back and you find out that you really don't like them at all. Once you see what they're really like, once the mask comes off, once they've got what they wanted, they might be really mean. Like I've heard my uncles, their wives yell a lot and they're kind of controlling. And it's interesting that my mum actually warned me of this sort of thing, like that it's not necessarily going to work out well. And it could be the girl just isn't really into you. And yeah, you don't want to end up with like dead bedroom and all that. And also the average male height is increasing in these places because they're getting richer and more developed. So the dating marketplace is more competitive there. It's not as easy. Competition is increasing in terms of looks and in terms of everything. For example, in Vietnam, the average height for males was 162 centimeters in 2000, and in 2020 it was 168 centimeters. So it's gotten a lot harder. I think the whole bringing back a girl is too risky for me, so I just prefer a short holiday And if I really am actually valued enough by girls there, like if it really is a better dating marketplace, then I should be able to enjoy that in a short time in a holiday and get some happiness there. At least experience like having a girl that likes me and enjoying time with her. But then again, if I do want that short-term stuff, it's a different sort of marketplace. Just like here girls only want to hook up with chads, and it's probably the same in Southeast Asia. Like, there's probably a much higher looks threshold, and I might not be good enough to reach that. Like, I know some guys on .co, they have hooked up with a lot of girls when they go to Southeast Asia, when they go to Thailand, but a lot of those guys, see, they're not actually, like, legitimately guys who can't get laid on those forums. They're mostly normal guys who are just edgelords and stuff. So of course you have average looking white guy who is pretty normal, goes there and does well. For me, it's going to be a bit harder. Yeah, I think it should be easier than in the West, but it is going to be harder for me than a lot of people who go there. Now, if I was to stay there, that's another option. The thing is, realistically, you need money to live there. It's not really a cheap place at all. Sure, it's cheaper than Western countries, or at least it seems cheaper than Australia. And going there on a holiday, you can get better value than other places. But it is not cheap to live there. Like, you can't just holiday there forever. You need an income, really. A lot of people there, they start their own business, or they're finding some job somehow. If I spent my savings there, it'd be gone pretty quickly, and I'd be in a really bad situation. If I had a decent paying remote job like I used to, then it'd be possible. Like, I used to be earning 60k USD per year, before tax of course. But on that kind of salary, I mean, you can live here in Australia on that, and I could live in Thailand on that for sure, and I'd still have money for fun. But I don't have that job anymore, unfortunately. I didn't make use of that kind of thing when I had it. Unless I was able to make an alternative income source somehow. Maybe if I was like a freelance developer, or maybe if my YouTube ever became really successful. But yeah, for now, I don't have any income source that I can use there, and my job is long gone. Of course, I can't use Centrelink while I'm there, because that pauses when you leave Australia. And I don't know the prospects of ever finding a remote job ever again. The fact is that staying in Australia is much cheaper than going over there and living in that supposedly cheap country. Living here with parents rent-free, getting Centrelink, the unemployment benefits. Kind of ironic given Australia is such an expensive place to live. And I can still get my physical needs met here once a week for $100 a week, which isn't really ideal at all, but it's enough to get me by without putting me in any financial strain. There's some other risks, like health risks. The rates of HIV are very, very high there, especially among women who are working in the paid field. Compared to Australia, it's so different. It's like Russian roulette, really. I wouldn't be comfortable doing anything there with any woman unless I was on PrEP. And there's been documented cases of PrEP failure, so even then it's still a risk. And one other topic is that there is kind of a darkness about Thailand. I don't know about Southeast Asia more generally, but Thailand specifically, a lot of foreigners die there. there's something called the Pattaya Flying Club. Foreigners taking their own lives in Pattaya. Apparently people run out of money, they burn all their bridges at home, they've got nothing left in life, and so that's it, and they just end things there. Also, there's people getting in trouble with police, even if they didn't really do anything bad, and Thai people beating them up over the slightest thing, and all sorts of trouble like that. And there's people dying of overdoses and other things. I've heard it described in really dark terms. It's kind of a place where people go if they don't have much left in life. There was a Reddit post that said for a lot of people it is the final stop in their life, the end of the line, and they go there, they spend up the rest of their money, and they die. And those cities, Bangkok and Pattaya, for someone naive like me, who's not really a hardened, experienced guy with communication skills and stuff, for someone like me going there as someone who's really sad, and I do fear maybe Thailand will chew me up and spit me out, and what if I end up like those people? Because when I think about it, I'm going there because I don't have anything left in my life to enjoy, and I've basically given up here. And stuff happens to people who go there when they don't really have enough money to survive there, because they don't have an income or a huge amount of savings, and they're in a really sad mental state, and I don't want to end up like that. So my overall opinion is that it's not really long-term sustainable for me. I don't see any long-term prospects because I don't have the money to live there, and it's too risky for me to bring someone back to Australia. But I just want to try a little bit and see if the dating market is more favourable. And yeah, I think I'd like to try the paid stuff as well. I could have all sorts of experiences, see if the paid side is better than Melbourne. I think the competition should be a bit easier there compared to back home, and maybe I might be lucky, who knows. It's probably worth a try, because you know what, I'm not wanted here. Girls don't want me, and maybe I just have to find a place where there's a chance that I could be wanted. I think that's all for now. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next time.